Today we're talking about sewers, specifically the sewers at Hershey's Mill, and for that reason I have two guests with me today. To my far right is Ed Mackesy, the president of the Green Hills Sewer Association. Welcome, Ed. And right next to me is Jared Golden, who is the director of grounds at Hershey's Mill, and as a result the operator of the sewer treatment plant. Let's begin with you, Ed. What is the association? How does it work? What does it do?
Well, basically, the association was formed at the beginning of Hershey's Mill in order to provide wastewater treatment. And so that goes back into the 70s, and it's an organization which supplies every home in Hershey's Mill with wastewater treatment sewers, and it provides them at a monthly rate, which is based on our cost and operation. It's a non-profit operation, and homeowners are billed for the sewer charges through the Master Association monthly fee.
Yes, unlike where I came from, where you got a separate bill for the sewer.
That's right.
I'm sure that's true of almost everybody who lives here. So how do you reach the rate, though? Is it?
Well, we look at the we look at the cost, the operation, which is something less than $500,000 a year, and divide it up among 17 and 20 homes in 12 months, and it comes out to something like $19.16 a month.
And that's just part of your fee that you pay to the HOA.
That's part of the 141 fee you pay to the Master Association.
And there's other revenues we get from the shopping center, golf club, areas.
Wellington, we provide service to Wellington, and we get income from there too.
Now, Jared, we were discussing before we started shooting here that we're kind of unique. There's not too many residential communities like ours that have their own sewage treatment system.
Now, most sewage is provided by either municipalities or private sewer companies. Aqua is a big operator in our area. But in the 70s, when Hershey's Mill was conceived, the township didn't have enough capacity to be able to support a community as large as Hershey's Mill. So DEP at the time was promoting spray irrigation. And as a part of that, they said, well, that might be a solution for your wastewater needs. So engineers were hired, studies were done, and that's how Hershey's Mill went forward with spray irrigation. They decided to put in a treatment plant and install the sprinklers, and that would be the solution for the needs for Hershey's Mill sewer.
What is spray, whatever it is?
Spray irrigation?
Irrigation.
Our treatment process has two parts. One, there's the water flows by gravity back to the maintenance area below the golf club, where it is pumped up through a screen into our treatment cells. In the treatment cells themselves, the only thing we do to treat the water is to provide oxygen and let Mother Nature take her course. The air produces an environment for bacteria to break down the solids in the wastewater. And for us, that process takes about 15, 16 days. In a big municipal plant like Valley Forge, which has been in the news recently, a gallon of water would go through that process in about 4 or 5 hours. So this process takes much longer, but it's also very efficient. Our energy needs are very low because it takes so long to treat the water.
I would assume that it's less expensive, too.
It's a lot less expensive, and it's also less mechanical, less cumbersome. There's less things that go wrong. The only thing we do is introduce air. If you ever visit the plant or peek over the fence and take a look at it, you'll see there's lines of bubbles coming up from the bottom. We use a system called laser. These holes in these tubes are cut with lasers. It's very fine pore aeration, and that aeration creates a lot of surface area of bubbles for the bacteria to be supported by. Now that does two things. One, it's taking care of the treatment of the water, but also reduces the amount of sludge removal that our plant has to take. Valley Forge is removing sludge hourly and creating huge beds of sludge that they have to deal with. We might have to remove the sludge every 10 years. And so there's a very low byproduct of our treatment process.
Does it require a lot of maintenance?
It requires daily maintenance, weekly, monthly. There's different things that happen at different times a year. But the removal of the sludge, that's in a 10-year cycle. We take daily readings, and there's weekly testing, and there's things that happen throughout the year.
Other than you, as I called the operator, are there others involved?
Steve Converse is our other licensed operators. We had to go through schooling, we're tested, there's ongoing education that's required by DEP. To stay qualified as operators, we have to be certified, licensed, and also insured.
Ed, what qualifications do you have to be a member of the board of the association?
Just interested in volunteering your time and having some background that might be appropriate. I happen to have an engineering degree, and someone asked me, would I be interested in volunteering to be on the board? And so I came on the board in 2010, I think, and was elected in 2013 as president. And it's a 3-year term, and I've just been reelected for another 3 years. And the board gets nominations, and then we forward those recommendations to the board of directors, and they approve them, or
The whole association,
Right.
master association.
Right.
So you're elected by them and not by all the people of Hershey's Mill.
That's right. It would be a little cumbersome.
Yeah, I would think so. I was going to ask you about the announcement you just made at the end of April, that there's going to be a study to check the main collection lines. What does that mean for water infiltration? What does that mean?
Well, we actually do that every year. There's a fair amount of investigation into the collection system. The collection system has 17 miles of 8-inch pipe throughout the mill. And that doesn't count the laterals from your houses. They're just the mains that connect those manholes. All of that flows by gravity back to the plant. And there's 2 studies that are done annually. One, we do a visual inspection at night. And what we're trying to find is what they call I&I, infiltration and inflow. So that's where, over the winter, where pipes might have shifted, or there might be a crack around a manhole where a pipe enters a manhole, and we're getting groundwater. Groundwater is the bane of a spray irrigation system because we're trying to reduce the amount of water we treat. So we'll go out in the spring when groundwater levels are high and try to identify those things or those flows at night when most people are asleep and the flow at the plant goes down very low. So we can pop manholes and look around and see where there's higher flow and follow it upstream until we find the culprit and where that water might be entering the system.
Now, do Hershey's Mill people do that, or do you have to hire specialists?
That's done by an outside engineering firm. And they've done it for us for 7-8 years. They know where all the manholes are. They can work at night. And the other study we do in cleaning is every 5 years, every single pipe is cleaned and TV'd over a 5-year cycle. So we might do 5 villages this year and a portion of the Master Association piping that's not in a village. And we'll do that over a 5-year period. We'll visit every one of those 17 miles of pipe. We will clean it and TV it. And at that time, that company will make any notes of cracks in pipes or infiltration or roots. A lot of times you'll see roots growing into a sewer system. And they'll be removed, patched, and we'll move down the road.
Yeah, I was going to ask you often, did you say 35 years approximately is how long the system's been in place? So over those 35 years, have you had to dig and go in and replace pipe?
Oh, yeah. And PVC will last a lifetime if it's installed correctly. And wherever we see a problem, it's where it might have been sitting on a rock or something that there's an outside agent that had created the problem. But most of the leaks we find are right where the manholes are. That, there's whether the pipe or the grouting around the pipe has deteriorated for whatever reason. That's usually where we find our problems.
We've used the term the plant. Is there physically a building called the plant?
Yep.
Where is it?
It's right below the golf club. It's just south of the golf club, behind the trees and the fence. There's the 3 facultative lagoons, and that's where the water flows into the plant itself. Each one of those lagoons is 1.1 million gallons. So water flows into the first one, through a series to the third one, and then gets pumped up to that big winter storage lagoon next to Jefferson, between Jefferson and the community gardens. So the water will spend time there mixing with other water. It actually gets more treatment from the wave action and the air that flows across it. And then when it's time to spray the water flows by gravity a quarter mile back down to the plant. At the plant, it gets sterilized with chlorine to eliminate any bacteria. And also, the pH of the water is measured and adjusted down. Domestic wastewater has a pH of 7.5. We need to get it down to about 6.5 to put it onto the ground so it doesn't affect the soil. And also, we introduce acid to it to reduce the bicarbonates, which makes the water a lot more permeable to get through the soil. So our treatment is called secondary treatment, which means we're not removing the nutrients. In a big plant like Valley Forge, they have processes in their plant that removes that nutrient from the wastewater, and the water is introduced back into a stream or a river. Our final filter is what I call nature's filter. It's the grass and it's the soil. The soil the plant material absorbs those nitrogens, phosphorus, contaminants that would be in the wastewater, and actually uses them to help them grow.
Well, right next to our Channel 20 parking lot is a woods with sprinklers in it.
Exactly.
That's you guys, right?
That's us.
Is that the way to get rid of excess, or is it just part of this filtration system?
It's just part of the whole system. We have permanent year-round spray fields, and we have the golf course, which is a seasonal source of water disposal. On the golf course, they water from April 15th through maybe mid-November. And then that system gets blown out because it's not deep enough to accommodate winter flows. Where the spray fields that we have next to Channel 20 and down by the East Gate and behind Devonshire and Wineberry Lane, they're year-round. We can spray as long as it's above freezing and as long as the wind isn't blowing water off the site. Now, that's hard to find in the winter. It's usually cold and windy, and this winter was certainly a challenge to get our effluent water out into the spray sites. But when we can't spray, that's what the winter storage lagoon is for. We have a 38 million gallon storage capacity, which allows us to store all the water if we had a brutal winter like this one and wouldn't be able to spray.
Wow. You said you were here from the beginning, but you don't just do the sewage treatment plant. You do a lot of stuff here, don't you?
Well, Steve and I run the sewer plant with the help of our directors, and we also have a golf course division and a landscape division, which I'm responsible for.
Wow. Well, I hope you learned something about the sewer system here at Hershey's Mill. I certainly did. I didn't know anything about it. And I want to thank both of you for being here today.
Thank you, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.